This is the Picton area of Wavertree in Liverpool, and this is the former Abbey Cinema, which looks like a scene from 28 Days Later these days. December 1984. The iconic Mark II version of Deep Purple have reformed. That's Ian Pace on drums, John Lord on keyboards, Roger Glover on bass, Ian Gillan as the singer, and Richie Blackmore is the lead guitarist. We're on tour in Australia, and George Harrison happens to be out there as well, and he asks if he can do a guest slot at one of their shows, and also could he borrow one of Richie Blackmore's guitars. So it's the 13th of December 1984, and Ian Gillan introduces George Harrison on stage as Arnold Grove from Liverpool. I really wish that story was true, and if it isn't, it should be. Now, as you can probably see down there, the Beatles bus has arrived, the Magical Mystery Tour coach. So I think we'll let these guys go, and then we will go and have a look at Arnold Grove. This is High Street in Wavertree, and it's another lovely day today. Apparently it's the third heat wave of the year, or as I prefer to call it, summer. And we're coming up to, on the left hand side, the only remaining Georgian bow-fronted shop in Liverpool, which has probably seen better days. Right, so we are going to cross the road. If you come on the tour coach, this is the way they go to Arnold Grove. So a quick walk through here. This is actually a working garage, and it's apparently a private road, so you can't drive down here, but you can walk. So let's go through a little bit of the history. So George's parents were already married, and they lived in a house further up Wavertree Road, and then they moved here to Arnold Grove. They didn't actually like it very much here for some reason, and they put their names down on the council waiting list. So these would have been a mix of privately owned houses, houses owned by private landlords, and some owned by Liverpool Council. George was actually born in this house on the 25th of February 1943, and home births were quite a thing at the time. I'm not sure if they're quite so popular now, but back then you had a choice of either having your baby at home or going into hospital, and a lot of people chose to have babies at home. This house has a blue plaque above the front door to commemorate George being born here, and that was only put here in 2024. I think the previous occupiers didn't want a plaque, so it's reasonably new. To give you an idea of where we are, we'll have a look at an aerial view. So start off with the Abbey Cinema and Picton Clock, which is where I was talking to you at the beginning of the video. And this is the road, private road, which I used to get to Arnold Grove. Starts here, and this is Arnold Grove here, and that one is George's childhood home, or the house that he was born into. After a long wait, lasting many years, Liverpool Council finally offer the Harrisons a new home here in Speke, and they move here on New Year's Day 1950. And as soon as they move in, they put the names on their housing list again, because they don't like this house either. But this house is also the wearer of a blue plaque, and George lived here with his family, and much music was practiced here. The Beatles would turn up and practice here more than they did at Fordlin Road. So this is their home up until 1962. This is a pretty famous photograph of George standing at the gate of 25 Upton Green with his guitar in a case. And this is that view today. Now, just to give you an idea of where George's house was in this area, this is an aerial view, and this is George's house, or George's former house, I should say. The Harrison family stay on the Liverpool Council housing list for 12 years, from 1950 until 1962. And in 1962 they are offered a house on the Woolton-Hunts Cross border at Mackett's Lane. I've done a little bit of research to make sure that some of this story is accurate. It's the summer of 1963 and it's August. Us kids are off school. I will have just turned 7, and there's a little gang of us who have decided to go to Woolton Woods to play football. And one of us has the great idea of calling for George Harrison to see if he fancies playing with us as well. So we set off down Rosefield Road, heading towards Mackett's Lane, and it's a thing that kids did. There's photographs of kids in the garden at Mackett's Lane where George's mum and dad would give them sweets and drinks and ice creams and things. I just want to point out that when we went, we didn't get anything. And we knocked on his door and his mum answered, and it wasn't me, but one of us said, "Is George in?" And she said, "No, he's in America with the Beatles. What did you want?" And we said, "Well, we were going to ask him if he fancies playing football up at the Woods." And she said, "Well, when he gets home, I'll tell him." So, I don't think that actually happened. But we wandered off and went to play our game. But this would have been the first tour of America that the Beatles did, which was from a date in August 63 through to September 63. And we just happened to pick a bad week. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure George would have come up. This is 174 Mackett's Lane. This is where George Harrison lived with his family. They moved here in 1962. But this is a time when the Beatles were becoming famous, and I don't think he spent a great deal of time here. But it was actually his house, and he replied to fans' letters from here. A lot of mail was delivered. You can find photographs of the mail deliveries on the internet. Boxes and boxes. I think the present owner, or the one that is actually selling the house now, is a little bit fed up with visitors because it looks completely overgrown, like they're trying to hide the house from people. Now, there are photographs of George Harrison's mum and dad talking to kids in the garden, giving them sweets and ice creams, as I said earlier. I think when Beatlemania really started to kick in, they got a little bit fed up with it themselves. The constant visitors and people coming to see if George was in, to see if he fancied a game of football at the Woods. And eventually George moved them out to a bungalow in Warrington, which at the time would have also been in Lancashire, the same as Liverpool was. He did this in 1965, so that the family was here from 1962 to 1965, with George spending very little time here, I would imagine. But that's the end of the story. The three houses that George Harrison lived in his time in Liverpool. I think in 65 he would have moved off to London, or down south close to London, with the rest of the Beatles, to his mansion. Right, so don't forget, if you want people to visit your house, keep your bush trimmed. And thank you very much for watching. We'll catch up soon. If you want to see the relationship between George Harrison's house in Speke to Paul McCartney's two houses in Speke, then I've made a video about it called The Beatles of Speke. So if you look that one up, that will show you exactly where they lived in relation to each other when they spent their time in Speke together. Right, once again, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch up soon.